Hey everyone, in this video I want to show you how to attach a storage volume to your Azure Container App. I will show you two different approaches on how to do that. The first one is the one Microsoft recommends in their documentation, which is not a great solution in my opinion, because it needs a couple of manual steps. After that, I will show you a better way how to attach the storage volume and how to automate the whole process. And with this, let's go into the demo. To get started, let's define a couple variables first. So the variables I define are the name for a resource group, a location, then the name for the Azure Container environment and for the Azure Container App name, then what image we're going to use. In this case, I'm using an Azure DevOps agent. I will link a video to the explanation of how to set up the agent, but you can use any image you want. Then we define the name of the storage account. Note that this name has to be unique worldwide. So if you use the same name as I do, you might get an error message. Then we configure the name of the file, the storage share name. And lastly, we configure the storage mount name. And since I'm using an Azure DevOps agent, I define a couple more variables to configure my agent. So the first one is the name of the agent pool where the agent should run in. Then the access token to my Azure DevOps server, and then the URL to my Azure DevOps server. But again, if you use your own image, you don't have to care about that. So with this set up, let's create a resource group. And in this resource group, we are going to deploy a storage account and then the container app. So the first thing we're going to deploy is the storage account. With the resource group, the name and the location we defined before, we use the standard LRS. That's the local redundant storage. It's the cheapest one, and that's good enough for this demo. And it should take only a couple seconds, and then we get the provisioning state, which is succeeded now. Next up, we're going to create a storage share. So again, we use the same resource group, the storage account name, then we provide the share name. Then here in the quota, we say how big this is in gigabyte. So our share is 32 gigabyte. Then we use SMB as the protocol. And with the output as table, we have here an overview. So that's everything we just configured. For the protocol, you could also use NFS, but this is in preview with the container apps right now, and therefore I'm using SMB. And the last thing we have to configure for the storage account is we have to get the storage account key, because we are going to need the key to configure the container app to access the storage account. So what we provide is the name, and then we query the first value because we have two keys and we just need the first one. And that's everything we have to do for the storage account. Next up, we can create our container app. So first we have to create a container app environment, and this environment will host our container app. And when we create the container app environment, it also automatically creates a log analytics workspace for us, and it should take a couple minutes until the environment is created. And to create the environment, we just provide the name for the environment, the resource group, and the location. The container app environment has been created, and now we can attach the file share which we created before to this container environment. Let's clean up the window and paste the command. And first we configure what access mode we want. In this case, it's a read-write, so I can read and write to the storage share. You could also do read-only, Then we provide the name for the storage account, the key, the share name. We provide a mount name. The mount name is going to be used to mount it into our container in the next steps. Then the name of our environment and the resource group. And if everything works as intended, we will see here the output with the resource group and the name of the mount. And with this in place, we can create our container app. So let's paste the command in here. And it should be straightforward. So we provide the name for our container app, the resource group, then the name of the environment, what image we want to use. Then here we configure the resources. So it's a quarter of a CPU core and 500 megabyte of RAM. That's the lowest one you can use. And then I provide, if we scroll back up, I provide a couple secrets and a couple environment variables. So if you use a different image, you might not even need them. And as it seems, everything has been already deployed. And now we can attach the volume to our container app. And here it is where it gets, in my opinion, a bit complicated. Because what Microsoft recommends is to download the configuration of the container app, open the YAML file, then paste in the volume by hand, and then upload the configuration again. So to do this, we are going to use the ACA Container App show command. Then we provide the name of our container app and the resource group. And then we say we want the output as a YAML file. And then we provide the name of the YAML file. So if you execute this, the configuration is downloaded and the YAML file is created. So now let's have a look inside this YAML file. Here we have the open YAML file with the whole configuration of our container app. And if you open it the first time, it might look quite overwhelming. And now we have to find the right spots and add the configuration for our volume. So if we scroll down, we can see here we have the template section for our container. And before this template section, we add the volume configuration. And here we provide the same name we configured before for the storage name. And then we say it's the type of Azure file. And the name of the volume is any name you want to use. The only thing you have to bear in mind is if we scroll further down and we configure this volume, that it has to be the same name. So let's go inside this container section here. And I usually paste it below the name. And there we paste the volume mount section. Then we have here the same name we configured as the name for the volume. So it's Azure File Volume, the same as here. That's important because if you don't have the same name, the container won't be able to match it and it won't work. And lastly, we have the mount path. So this is the path this storage share will be available inside the container. And then we have to scroll further down because here's already a volume section that's null and we have to delete this. Then we save this file and then we go back to our command line. And now we upload this file. So to do this, we use the ACA Container App update command. Then again, we provide the name, the resource group, and then the file we just saved. And this might take a couple minutes. And once it's finished, it will output a table with the name and it will indicate that everything worked. So the update worked and now we can test it. And here depends on what application or what container you're using. Since I'm using an Azure DevOps agent, I will use a Azure DevOps pipeline to write a file into the file share. So to do this, let's go to the Azure DevOps. In Azure DevOps, I already prepared a pipeline. So let's run this pipeline and then we take a look what this pipeline is doing. So it should take a couple seconds for the pipeline to start. And in the meantime, let's take a look. And as you can see, the pipeline is as simple as it can be. It only has one task. And this task writes a file in the share. That's the folder we configured for the file share. And the file is called sample.txt. So once the pipeline is finished, we should see this file inside the file share. And there we can see the pipeline already ran successfully. And now let's take a look if we can see the file in the file share. So let's go to the Azure portal. And there we have the resource group we created before. And the resource group contains all the resources. That's the container app, the container app environment, the storage account, and the log analytics workspace, which the container app environment created. So let's take a look inside the storage account. And there we have the storage browser. And then we can select the file share. And there we can see the file share we created before with the 32 gigabyte as quota. So if you open this, we can see here the sample.txt file. And this shows that our container was able to access the file share and write a file there. So I'm going to delete this for now. And now I'm going to show you a better way how to automate attaching the storage volume so you don't have to download the configuration, update it by hand, and then upload it. Before we do this, I'm going to delete the container app so we have a clean slate, and then we get started. Back in our terminal, let's delete the container app. And to do this, we use the ACA Container App delete command. Then we provide the resource group and the container app name. And the last parameter for the yes is to confirm that we want to delete this container app. So the CLI doesn't ask us explicitly, and the deletion should run, and it's already successful. And next up, we're going to delete the container app environment. So it's almost the same command, except you use the AC container app env delete command. Again, we provide the environment name, the resource group, and then we also confirm that we want to delete this resource. With the container app environment deleted, we can now go to the second part of this video. And first up, we are going to create another container app environment. It's going to be the same name, same location and resource group as before. And as in the first part, it's going to create a log analytics workspace again. And this is going to take a couple minutes. Once this is done, we can attach the storage, the file share again to the environment, and then we can create the container app. Creating the container app environment takes a couple minutes, but after this is done, we can attach the storage account to the app environment the same way we did it in the first method. So let's clear this and then paste the code. And it's exactly the same code as in the first time, just in case if you have watched the first part. We configure the storage in read-write mode. We could also do read-only, and then we provide all the information. For example, the name to the storage account, the key, the name to the share, the name to the mount, the Azure Container Apps environment, the resource group, and then we print everything in this table. And this shows us that the deployment worked. And the last step we have to do is create our container app. But as you can see here, we don't provide many parameters. We only provide the most basic one, like the name, the resource group, and the environment name. And then we provide this YAML file. And this YAML file contains the whole configuration of the container app. And this also includes the volume and the share configuration. Let's start the deployment. And while this deployment is running, let's take a look at the YAML file. So here we have the YAML file we provide for the deployment. And it looks very similar to the YAML file we used for the first method, but this time we provide the whole configuration with this file. And if you try this yourself, I will have all the files as always on GitHub. I will also add placeholder so you know where you have to change something. But if you scroll through this, it should be fairly easy to see what we're doing. For example, we have here the location, a name. Then if you scroll further down, we provide here the personal access token as a secret. Then even further down, we provide here environment variables, the container image, and all the way down here, we provide the volume mount. So in this case, we configure the path of the volume. That's share. This means our container can access the volume under the share folder, and we provide a name. In this case, Azure File Volume. And down here under the volume section, we provide the same name. And it's important that's the same name, otherwise the container can't mount the storage. And here under storage name, we have the name we configured for the storage amount before, and the type is Azure File. And that's everything we have to do to attach our volume to the container. And unlike previously, we don't have to do anything manually. We can check in this file into our source control and can just deploy it and update the container app automatically. And if you take a look at our CLI, the deployment succeeded. And now we can test if our file share is working. Since I'm using an Azure DevOps agent in my container app, I will use an Azure DevOps pipeline to test the file share. If you use a different image, you might have to try it a different way. So I've already prepared the pipeline. Let's run the pipeline, and while the pipeline is running, we're going to take a look at the configuration. So this is the same pipeline I used in the first method in the first half of the video. And this pipeline doesn't do anything except it writes here the file sample.txt inside the share folder. And the share folder is the file share. So if we take a look, if the pipeline already finished, so it already finished just now. And if we go to the Azure portal, we should see the created file in the file share. So here inside our resource groups, we have the 4 resources we created before. And if we go to the storage account, we select the storage browser, then the file share. Then we can see here the previously created file share. And inside this file share, we see our sample.txt file. And this showed that with just adding the configuration with the YAML file, we could attach the volume to the storage, the volume of the storage account to the Azure Container App, and we didn't have to configure any manually. And in my opinion, that's a great way to attach volumes and have the whole process automated. And this is everything I wanted to show you today. If you have any feedback or a better way how to manage volumes with Azure Container Apps, leave a comment. And if not, I'll see you next week.